and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 122nd film. It's the 2018 Christmas rom-com, The Princess Switch. It's directed by Mike Rohl and it stars Vanessa Hudgens, Sam Palladio, and Nick Sagar. I am Jesse, and I'm here with MJ. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. We're feeling festive. It's bloody hot in Australia, so it must feel like Christmas. And we're watching Christmas movies, so I've got nothing to complain about.
Yes, you're a little bit of a fan of the Christmas fair, so hopefully this is one that will stick with you and you'll put on repeat every year around this time.
You'll find out very soon how I felt about this film.
Good. We'll start us off with your fast flicks, where you give us a quick summary of your thoughts on the film.
Alrighty, so we've got a baker and a royal who look identical. So they switch lives for a couple of days to get a taste for what it's like on the other side. All of this happening during the festive season, of course.
Yeah, lovely. So two lookalikes trade places and possibly fall in love.
Ooh, fall in love with each other?
Who knows? That's the mystery of the film. All right, we have the part where we sort of check out and see what we can work out about how this one was put together. So what could you see about the Princess Switch and how it was made?
Yeah, look, you might prove me wrong here, but there wasn't a heap about this, which makes me think it was just pretty smooth sailing from a production standpoint, and Netflix was pretty happy to just roll out a new Christmas movie without too much fuss. So Vanessa Hudgens was basically the one who announced it after she posted it on her socials. And from what I can gather, that was basically after the principal photography had already wrapped up. And that was in June of 2018. And she announced the movie as The Christmas Switch, but then it was later confirmed by Netflix that it was going to be called The Princess Switch. Possibly a deliberate ploy, maybe just to let people know, hey, this is a Christmas film as well, but we're also kind of going down the same route as The Christmas Prince. Which obviously had a fair bit of success the previous year. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, right? But apart from that, man, like the majority of the film was shot in Karai in Romania. And after that was wrapped up in late June, it was ready to be released on Netflix on the 16th of November. So they just didn't mess around with this one. They filmed it, they put it in the can, they edited it, and it was on our screens before you know it.
And there's a sequel which has recently come out as well. So if you wanted to check out I think it's called The Princess Switch 2. Is it? I didn't even look into it, to be honest. But I think that's available to watch on Netflix, or nearly.
Yeah, I know. I think it just came out very recently.
Yeah. I guess I had a look, and I think this is probably one of the ones that's got the most translations or different words that have changed in the title for different languages. So I'm just going to reel through them because there's heaps and heaps, and they're all very similar and all say the same thing. But I want to finish off with a bit of a corker at the end. So Argentina, Mexico, it's the Princess Exchange. Brazil, it's Portugal. Brazil, they speak Portuguese, so it's the Princess and the Commoner. We've got Bulgaria and Serbia, it's the Princess Replacement. In France, it's the Princess of Chicago. In Germany, it's the Princess Swap, Greek's Double Princess, Hungary's Christmas Exchange, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to keep skipping through. I've got heaps more here, but I wanted to go with the Czech Republic, where it's called Princess from the Confectionery, which I thought was hilarious. And in Chinese, it's also called Princess Double.
Yeah, they're all fine. Like, whatever.
Yeah, good. All right, we've got
double what?
Double Princess. Sorry, the Princess Double Pack. It's like a twin pack of. I think that's just not a great translation. Good. All right. So.
Okay.
What else have we got here? There's a scene where they're watching Netflix on the screen, and there's a whole bunch of different Netflix films up on the screen, and there's Christmas Inheritance, there was Christmas Prince, El Camino Christmas, Like Father, and Set It Up. So everything that was on the screen, we've done an episode on, which I thought was pretty cool. And then this sort of led me down a little bit of a path where last year, Netflix actually announced that there's a Netflix holiday movie universe, a bit like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's now commonly known as the Netflix Christmas Cinematic Universe, or the NCCU. So just in case you're interested, there's Netflix put out on their socials a infographic that connects all the films somehow in some little connection.
Is that why they work so hard on integrating them within each film? Is that why we keep seeing snippets of their own films in their Christmas movies?
I think so, yeah. So that's an interesting little pickup. The only other thing that I had there was that the song that was in the opening scene was actually performed by the guy who plays Prince Edward in the film. So he performed the song there as well, which was an interesting little fact. Or anything else or consensus?
Yeah, no, nothing else that I figured out. The consensus is actually pretty good, and I think it's probably why we've got a sequel and why we've got something else. Probably not that I've seen the sequel, but I'm sure it's a very similar plot and going to be exploring very similar things because it worked the first time. So it's a 6.10. Sorry, it's a 6 flat out of 10 on IMDb. Over 21,000 ratings there, and a bit lower on Letterboxd, but still 2.5 out of 5. Again, 21,000 ratings for that. So got enough eyeballs for this kind of film. If you're getting a 6 out of 10, I mean, you couldn't ask for much more, to be honest.
Yeah, positive on Rotten Tomatoes too, 75% on 12 reviews. So fresh, no consensus, but yeah, sitting there on fresh. I had a percentage match for this one, which I was a little bit surprised. 75%. So yeah, not too low, not too high, but we'll sit there and take that. But that can lead us into our early thoughts. So what are your early thoughts?
I'm very surprised I didn't have one.
True. Yeah, you do like your Christmas.
Yeah. Well, that leads it. Like I love Christmas movies, and I have historically been a lot more lenient with what a pass mark is for a Christmas movie. I'm also happy to allow higher levels of corniness if it's used to sort of ham up the spirit of Christmas. I like all that kind of stuff, and I let it go. But it might be possible that the corny levels were actually overblown on this film, because I think they might have taken it just a little bit too far, and I had a little bit of trouble actually enjoying this movie without rolling my eyes at most scenes. I mean, I liked the wholesomeness of the season of giving and being who you are and doing what makes you happy. I think they're nice messages, but that was kind of intertwined with this gimmick, obviously, of Vanessa Hudgens playing two identical people, and the insane predictability of the plot made the other stuff really hard to enjoy. But I mean, it was harmless, and that's what you want out of a Christmas movie. So I'm not complaining with anything, but you could watch 7 minutes of this movie and you know exactly what's happened. And they kind of want you to know that. I don't know. It was a bit of hard work, this one.
Yeah, I'm very similar. This was sugar-coated to the max. It takes bits out of every Netflix Christmas film that we've seen, and it left all originality out the door. There was nothing original about this at all, and that's, I think, probably where my criticism for it comes, is that was like you mentioned, so predictable. There's nothing that you don't expect to happen. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's a comfort with, right? But yeah.
Character time.
So Stacey DeNovo, and apologies, it does seem to be a little bit of a lag, so sorry if it sounds a bit crappy in your ears, but we will work through that. Stacey DeNovo, played by Vanessa Hudgens, obviously the first Vanessa Hudgens character that we meet. This felt like Gabriella from High School Musical after she's finished from college and she was out there making it on her own. I kind of appreciate it. I'm like, oh, we're back with Gabriella. Like, that's exactly who it was. I mean, what else could you say? Like, everything about this character was so stereotypical to fit in with the story they were trying to tell. Like, she liked to work hard. She liked to stick to schedules. She liked to give back where possible. And of course, she hadn't quite moved on from her ex and needed a little bit of a nudge to get back out there. But I mean, it was ticking every single box that you had to tick to tell the story that you wanted to tell. So, I mean, it wasn't that exciting, but yeah, that's Stacey.
Yeah, I got exactly what you've said, that I guess that broken up the ex-boyfriend. The only other thing is, of course, she's got a best friend that with a kid that wants them to get together as well. Just one of those other little things that you add in to sort of say, you know, perfect little scenario sitting there ready to be broken apart, I guess. Margaret was the alter ego, or the second half of the same character, I guess. Just a bit more posh, but a lot more down to earth and not as organized and and more spontaneous. I guess just the opposite. That's all they were, really.
Yeah.
Opposites.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, they set her up as, like you said, quite prim and proper, but she kind of had that wild let your hair down side which actually didn't feel very real from this prim and proper princess that we kind of met. But hey, once they commit to it, then you know where the film's going, so it's fine. Yeah, she's exactly the opposite. She plays by her own rules. She pushes boundaries, and she kind of floats wherever the wind takes her, which is all the things that Stacey doesn't do.
They had Prince Edward, I guess, is the guy that Stacey ends up or wants to be with because she's switched or whatever. Who cares really which one switches with who? They each end up with a guy. We've got Frank, we've got Prince Edward, and I mean they're both pretty nice guys. Neither of the guys had any qualities that you're like, there's nothing about you that stands out as something that might push someone away. And I think that it's weird. I guess it's not weird, but I guess it was just like I mentioned, very sugar coated. There's no negative qualities about these guys.
Yeah, I mean Kevin especially was like, what a bloke. He was a great dad, great friend.
I call him Frank. Yeah, sorry.
I thought you did too. But he's just like, he's just perfect. And I guess that's what you kind of cook up in the lab when you're making these kind of movies, because everyone kind of needs to swoon for him a little bit, but also everyone wants him to get the girl. So it just works that this guy's super perfect. With Edward, this bloke actually made it. I was a little bit unsure whether I was supposed to like him initially, and the only reason I was leaning towards liking him was because they had a couple of the meet cutes early on. So I was like, oh, that's obviously foreshadowing what's going to happen. But he kind of needed to be forced out of his shell a little bit, and I kind of appreciated that because nothing else is really happening with these characters. So Prince Edward was maybe semi-tiny, little bit interesting in that sense.
God. The daughter of Kevin, Olivia, I felt the worst for this kid because the whole deal at the start about the switch was that we'd get her a ballet sponsorship, and there was no follow through. It was just left in the air that this kid wants to get a sponsorship, and that's all good. We'll just forget about that. So
I forgot about that actually.
Forgotten in the story.
Yeah, she got a pretty good gig though. They just I don't know how they got this trip. I know they obviously applied for this competition, but it's a pretty sweet gig just before Christmas with great accommodation, get to fly halfway across the world, and it's pretty good. And then all of a sudden, you just get to take your sous chef and his daughter. Like that's part of the prize.
Yeah, I've got the kindly old man who was credited as in the credits, and he was just this random old dude who popped in every now and then just to give this little inspirational little quote that realistically he was not needed one bit. And I hated every moment that he spoke to anyone because he added nothing to the story.
I called him the Christmas Angel. I didn't look what he was called because he was not only did he not add to the story, it made very little sense where he was sitting within the story. And I was kind of expecting the movie to end and him to be like this little star or something, like on It's a Wonderful Life. You got the guy who's kind of like a Christmas angel. I thought it was good. I mean, I guess it was a bit of a throw to that, but they kind of never really wrapped it up. It was like, oh, here's this guy that was just in America or Chicago at the start, and then he was over in wherever they were, Romania. I don't know. But yeah, it didn't make sense. Silly.
And then Brianna was that evil villain who was probably the nicest villain ever. All she did was cut a cord and she didn't stop anything from happening or anything like that. So that frustrated me too.
Cutting the cord though, someone's going to pick up on that earlier than they did. Like it's just going to happen.
Made some sort of check beforehand.
Yeah. We could dig really deep on this film and point out a lot of flaws, and it's probably not the point.
Exactly. Any other characters?
Nah, you went to more than I would have.
The director, Mike Rohl, he had 57 directing credits, and this was his biggest piece on IMDb.
Yeah, a lot of TV series, a lot of TV movies, but he did some episodes of Supernatural and Smallville. Been around for sort of 20 odd years, but yeah, this seems to be his biggest thing, and obviously he's backed it up with the sequel as well.
Yeah, also TV show called Helix, good sci-fi one, which I quite liked, and that Shadowhunters one, which is pretty popular recently as well.
Yeah,
right.
He's done all right.
Same time. What are some scenes that you enjoyed in this?
Yeah, I'm going to start with this one, despite it not being a scene I enjoyed, but I did want to call it out that at the start when they were trying to convince Stacey to do this competition, in fairness to her, pretty hard decision to just close your business that time of year. I know they were really pushing like, you need to get away. It's like, hang on, she's running this business, in downtown Chicago. It's going to be really busy. You can't just close your doors. So I appreciated where she was coming from, to be honest. Not that it was a scene I liked.
All she needed was for the ex-boyfriend to not be thinking about her anymore. It's like, cool, I'm out. It's done.
Yeah, exactly. That might come up in the other section we talk about. I thought it was a little bit fun when Edward first walked in on both the girls trying to sort of switch characters, and she had to pretend that she was Margaret State had to pretend she was Margaret straight away while she was hiding behind the couch. I just thought that was kind of a funny, little fun scene. That's one of the few things that did work for me. I liked it when she said I slept like a log, and he looked at her weird and she said, a royal log. I thought the term royal log just reminded me, it just made me think of someone going to the toilet, and I thought that was kind of funny, and I hope that's what the gag was. The only other scene that I did like was at the end when Kevin was kind of throwing himself at Stacey, Margaret, whichever one he thought it was. And I liked it when he talked about, all those little moments with you. That's what life's really about. I thought he hit the nail on the head nicely. The idea that you can fall in love with someone, even though it wasn't actually her, but fall in love with someone that you've known for such a long time, because you do appreciate all those little moments that you do share together. And I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah, very nice. I've only got one thing that I found a little bit humorous, and there was a scene where obviously the Stacey was playing Margaret and needed to get on a horse, and obviously didn't like horses. And even though I could see where it was going, I just thought it was funny. I had a little bit of a giggle when she jumped over the horse and just went the whole way over and stacked. But I also hated the back end of that where she cracked it for going like it was a really quick outburst. So it sort of ruined it. That's the one little positive I'll take out of this.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
What are some things that you didn't like?
Yeah, the first one was the scene that you mentioned when she bumped into her ex and how his current girlfriend was just insanely just naive and unrealistic, and that was just a terrible scene. Similar to the scene, and this is where you spoke about the villain, but like it was maybe a nice villain, but she was also a terrible villain. Like when she spilt that drink on her apron, it was just overacted, and like wasn't that's why you got a bloody apron, right? It's going to get dirty. That's why you wear an apron. Like unbelievable. Maybe she wasn't wearing an apron? That scene works a bit better. Anyway, it annoyed me, and this was always the case with a film like this. How many times do you actually want to hear them say things like, oh, remember this? Or, oh, I thought you said this, because they're trying to assume these different personalities and they don't have any context of how they got to certain places. It's just annoying every time they say like, hey, but you said you were going to do this the other day. It's like, oh, yeah, no, I am going to do that. Like, it passes limit for me. When the Christmas angel dude came over to Kevin to say, warms my heart to see two people in love, just for no reason. Like, there's no reason why you would come up to anybody and say that. Stop it. Didn't like it. This is a good one that I don't think you would have picked up on, and I hope you did, but you wouldn't have. When they had like an exterior shot of the toy store before they went in, and there was an extra who just sort of walked out the door, and the camera kind of followed him before it found, our normal cast. And he was awful. Like, he knew the camera was on him the whole time. This extra's walking and he's got the straightest face and he's kind of almost like half looking at the camera, and it was so noticeable. And that's what when you realize that they turned this movie around in like 3 months, they probably saw that and were like, nah, it'll do.
Leave it in there. Didn't think
it was bad. And the other thing I didn't like was the fact that they spoiled the Christmas Prince in there. I've obviously seen the film for this podcast, but they showed the final scene of the movie. It's terrible.
It's true. Very true. Yeah, I got a couple others, and I cut the list down because I was like, I just want to do a couple. The plane, when they take off from Chicago on this big 747, and it's a quick cut to this landing shot and this little propeller plane. Like, I understand the use of editing in that process, but that is ridiculous. Like, there are a lot of dots you've got to connect in your mind. And I get that. I'm smart enough to work that out, but like, that just looks so poor. Like, you have the plane going off, big plane, landing, little plane. Just did not look visually very, very good at all. Stacey with the prince, and this is the scene that you sort of liked, where she was trying to cover the
no.
other one and hiding behind the couch. I just thought the whole, I've got a lazy eye, like it just wasn't funny.
That's true.
I was like, come on, surely you can come up with a different excuse. And
Yeah.
finally, the last thing that really annoyed me was Olivia, the daughter, is talking to Margaret, and they're saying, what should we do today? And she goes, let's go to the square where we bought the Christmas tree from. I'm like, you are on a 2-day trip and you've bought a Christmas tree. Like, it just did not make sense. I could not comprehend. I'm like, this is out of control.
That's a good point.
Anyway, that's me done. I'm not going to go any further. So let's break into some thoughts about what the message of this one was. The very explicit ideas that it had on the screen.
Yeah, and they're nice, but the idea of doing the things that make you happy, finding someone who's happy to do them with you. Don't be forced into a hole that you don't fit into. It's pretty simple, pretty nice. Follow your dreams kind of thing.
Yep, helping others. Christmas is more than just a gesture. It's about love, what's inside counts, planning versus spontaneity. Marriage is not just a duty, etc. All those little messages, all the same thing that we just repeat over and over again. All right. What did you take away from this one?
This is one of those films that I'm weirdly happy to say that I've seen now, because I feel like it's a little bit of a poster boy for the Netflix Christmas movie suite. And like you mentioned, and which I didn't know, that they've got their own universe. I feel like this is one of the lead ones. So I like the fact that I can now be part of that conversation. I've always kind of liked Vanessa Hudgens. It's certainly something that I did have to check out at some point. So now I can say I've ticked that off the list, because otherwise there's not a lot more I'm going to take out of it, apart from the fact that it probably just goes a little bit too hard on the cringe factor. And if you really wanted to poke holes in it, you could probably do it in almost every scene and probably have a bit of fun doing it. Like, you'd laugh at things like, like we said about the plane and the Christmas tree that they purchased. Like, it's all there and it's fine, but it's not.
Yep. I've just said sugary sweet, very inoffensive. If you want an appropriate Christmas film for very young people, this is fine. This doesn't do anything that pushes boundaries or makes too many inappropriate jokes or anything like that. So it's very, very appropriate for younger people. Did you go on IMDb to check anyone or anything out?
I actually didn't for this movie, and I can't remember the last time we've done a movie on the podcast, or even just a movie that I've watched in general, that I haven't jumped on IMDb to check someone out. So no, I didn't go on it for this. How about you?
I didn't go on IMDb, but I did Google something very early on, because right at the start, they talk about this cooking competition, the first couple of minutes, and they go, it's in Belgravia. And I was like, this reminds me so much. So I'm like, I need to look up the Christmas Prince. So I looked up the Christmas Prince, and that was set in Eldovia. So
Eldovia, yeah.
Like, so we got Belgravia and Eldovia. So if you chuck an A on the end of a word, it's all good. It's a good location. So I just wanted to confirm that it wasn't in the same city.
Is it fictional? I don't know. Is it fictional city?
It's a good question. I'm not sure, but I think that there's some people have written some essays and comparisons about how these are all interconnected and all in that same universe, like we mentioned. So, interested. It's worth checking out.
You know what? I'm not disinterested. I probably will have a little look.
Oh yeah, go for it. You can fill me in next week. Do you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
Well, this is our second Christmas movie for this year. So, and when I say this year, we're recording this in 2020, but these are the 2018 Christmas films for Netflix. And we did this last year, and there were 3 Christmas films. So let's keep them separate. But out of this year, we've done the holiday calendar. What did you prefer out of the holiday calendar and the Princess Switch?
I can't even remember what I gave that one, but I'm thinking the previous one. I think the holiday calendar had a little bit of originality to it. Even though I wasn't a massive fan, it was still had a bit of an original idea.
Yep. I preferred it too. I didn't mind the holiday calendar.
Yeah. Did you have deja vu watching this?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's so similar to the Christmas Prince that we watched last year, which again, that's got 2 sequels. So, I mean, they really, and this is all kind of around similar time to, I think, like when Prince Harry got married. So we had like royal weddings were obviously the thing, and Netflix is like, we got to get on this, and they've overcompensated for it, obviously. But yeah, there's a ton of, not deja vu specifically, but there's just a ton of familiarity. And yeah, you're right. Lack of originality with what the story they're trying to tell, which is a little bit of a slap in the face. But also, again, Christmas movies, you're just there. You're not going to watch. You're not going to watch more than 5 Christmas movies a year generally, as much as you might have the best intentions to do so. So it can kind of work.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if we hadn't have seen the Christmas Prince and only seen this, we might have enjoyed this more because we didn't know that previous story.
True. Yeah, you're right, actually.
Any other questions?
I really don't. There's nothing that I was confused by in the plot that I needed your help to decipher. So, nah.
Good. All right. Well, it's almost time to wrap it up then, and we give a rating out of 5 to give it an average out of 5. I'm very excited to hear what you've got to say.
Oh, look, this movie, like it tried very hard to be fun, and I do respect that. And it was also really self-aware of what it was doing, but I kind of feel like it just lent a little bit too far into itself. And I think it thought, because we're self-aware, we've got a green light to overplay on this cringe factor. And as a Christmas movie lover, even I thought that was just too much to swallow. But I'm still going to give it 2 stars, because if you watched it in isolation and you just wanted a bit of your Christmas fix, I think you'll still get it. But it's very lucky to get a 2 out of me.
Yep, fair. I think we saw visits to orphanages. We saw pretending to be someone you're not. We saw opening up a new shop in some kind of location that's where you're going to follow your dream man. I've heard this and I've seen this all before, and it's from Netflix as well. So to me, it was extremely frustrating. So I'm giving it a 1.5, which will gives a 1.75. But I think that's about where it should.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And that's why I'm staggered by it sitting at a 6 on IMDb. Over 20,000 people were like, "Yep, this is a above par movie." But you know what? If you're a 10-year-old girl, I can imagine. Sorry, girl or boy, to be honest, I can imagine you loving this movie. December 1 ticks over, and you want to put this on because it's going to give you all the Christmas feels. I can so see that.
Yeah, good. We have socials. We have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Question to pop up there for this week is, if you could live a day in someone else's shoes, who would it be?
Oh.
So I'd go, man. I think I'd go Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, that's not an answer that I can. Sorry, that's not a question that I can answer without more thought, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's a very exciting proposition, though.
Yeah, just on that vibe of what we saw, I guess, rather than just like a twin and switching. It's the Parent Trap sort of style. It's who else could it be? Have a think. Have a think. But I guess the best thing is that we have another Christmas film next week, which
Can't wait.
I'm very excited for. And this is from 2018 as well. It's a comedy called The Christmas Chronicles. It's directed by Clay Cadis. Stars Kurt Russell, Judah Lewis, Darby Camp, which I think possibly been in
couple.
A couple. Yeah.
The Ben Mendelsohn one. He was in that one.
Yes. Lamorne Morris, Kimberly Williams Paisley, and Oliver Hudson. So that's our film for next week, is The Christmas Chronicles.
I have not watched this film, and I have wanted to watch this film, so I'm looking forward to it.
There was a lot of promo for this one when it came out. I remember it very, very much. So it should be a good one.
Am I correct in saying there's a sequel for this one, or there's a sequel coming for this one as well?
Yes, directed by Chris Columbus, Harry Potter's and Home Alone's, etc. Yeah, recently come out. So we'll be doing the first one next week, though.
Yeah, okay, good to know.
It's the second one in about 2025.
Yeah, bloody Netflix.
Been a pleasure, as usual, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, right back at you, mate. I'll chat to you next week.